The final score, Wrexham 2, Colchester United 1. Oh, well, this was a battle, but it was the old cliched sort of match that you have to win if you're going to win the league. I mean, we were up against a side third from bottom. Colchester United have got the worst defence in the division. And we looked comfortable till the 26th minute when George Evans's red card changed everything. That we came out with the win still was very, very pleasing. So, Wrexham going into this game with Owen O'Connell coming back from injury. Good news. Anthony Ford back on the bench as well. So that's fantastic. The squad's starting to grow just as the congested Christmas festive fixture list comes closer and closer. And we started well. And by the 4th minute, we were ahead. Tozer slinging a long throw in. Fika Kelleher, ex-Wrexham centre-back, jumped but could only flick it across goal to Elliot Lee. His first snapshot from about 8 yards out with his right foot was well blocked by Mitchell, but it dropped kindly for Lee, and he smashed a second effort gleefully home. And Wrexham had that early lead, and you then started sort of rubbing your hands and expecting a bit of an avalanche of goals. Didn't come, and there were a couple of reasons for that. Up till the 26th minute, because Wrexham were just happy to stay in control of the game and bide their time. Colchester, as I said, are struggling. They are wedded to a short passing game, and they dominated possession from that point onwards until the red card. It was fine from Wrexham's point of view. We had the goal. Every time we went forwards, Colchester's defence looked vulnerable and we looked sharp. And yeah, it was a good position for Wrexham to be in, and we were happy to just carry on like that. Colchester didn't have much threat, really. Fevrier on the right-hand side was lively, fast and aggressive and selfish. If he had better decision-making, he could have wreaked havoc, but he didn't. And so basically Agbo, because Colchester had switched their shape around quite a bit from the last match, Agbo, centre-back, playing at right-back, was very good at coming forwards and supporting Fevrier and doubling up. And then Fevrier was using that pace and directness of his to cause issues, but maybe not as many issues as he ought to do. Agbo often was unmarked in good positions where he could have used him, but Fevrier instead, emboldened, I think, by the fact he managed to get past Tom O'Connor a couple of times early on in the game, just kept going for goal. To be fair, in the 15th minute, he did draw a save from Howard. Agbo doing well, carrying it down the right and feeding Fevrier. He cut inside powerfully, driving between McLean and O'Connor, and then pivoted and tried to catch Howard out. It looked like he was setting himself, having cut in from the right, to drive something across the keeper, and he tried to pivot and drive it into the bottom right corner. Howard was alert to that, got down well and saved. Within a minute, Colchester had another moment of hope. Jay, in midfield, was very good at finding space between the lines, something I'm noticing teams doing more and more against Wrexham. On this occasion, he put a nice pass into the left channel, and Taylor, already in double figures up front for them on loan from Luton, drove down that left channel, but the pass had left him with a tight angle, and again Howard was quick to come off his line and smothered the shot. I don't want to give the impression that Colchester were penning us in and carving out chances, though. That was sort of it for the first half of them. But then Wrexham, when we broke, as I said, were looking threatening, and Colchester's defence was not happy. Tozer's long throws were always leading to opportunities. One from him bounced back out to the edge of the area, and McLean, who earlier had slashed a volley badly wide, smashed a terrific volley from inside the D that just scraped the right post. There was another opportunity for Wrexham, and Mendy went driving down the right. Great ball driven into the goal mouth. Really good block in the goal mouth to push the ball clear. But it only came as far as Cannon. He smashed in a strong shot, which was really well blocked. And it came out to McLean, and he put the big slice way off target. But within a minute of that chance, the game changed. George Evans had already been booked in the 20th minute, and quite rightly. He was trying to press. Colchester didn't look all that secure when they tried to pass the ball out from the back, and they played a short goal kick. It was daft, in all honesty. The body shape of the player receiving it, who was just square, facing the keeper, wasn't great. The ball's rolled to him. Evans sees the chance to step in, lunges in, but it's a daft challenge to make, really, in all honesty. He's trying to come around the side of his right foot and nick the ball away. He didn't have much chance of doing that without conceding a foul, and yeah, he didn't get anywhere near the ball with his leading leg, which didn't make contact with the Colchester player, but his trailing leg absolutely wiped him out from behind. Absolute stone cold yellow card, no question about it. And then 6 minutes later, he's off, unfortunately. And again, you just can't argue about this. It was a very tight area. Wrexham were looking to play little passes in tight areas and to try and draw the press on and then spring in behind. Cannon played a attempted little cute ball around the corner, which took a nick off a defender. It just took it away from Evans, who stretched to try and win it back and went right through McGeechan's ankle. The referee was right on top of it. As the game went on, the ref would start making odd decisions, but in the first half hour, he was fine. And he correctly pulled out a straight red rather than the second yellow, which puts Evans out of the whole Christmas period. And it was yeah, you're looking at the replays, I mean, it's the old match the day syndrome. You look at it, he's gone right through his ankle, he's bent his leg quite nastily. The old cliche, if he'd stuck his studs into the grass, he probably would have broken the guy's leg. This is a straight red, there's no two ways about it. And Wrexham are massively inconvenienced. And we reacted, listen to Elliot Lee's interview after the match because he sums it up nicely. We reacted by thinking on the pitch, not thinking calmly and be able to step back, because you can't do that on a football pitch during a match. We reacted by just dropping off, digging deep, and trying to make sure that we could see our way through to half-time, which we did successfully, but it wasn't a tactic that was really going to work for us. Sam Dalby was left up front on his own. Paul Mullin was pulled back to the right side of the centre midfield, not the right wing, but centre mid, and we looked to survive. Mullin's work rate was magnificent, but he isn't natural in that position. And there were a couple of times in Colchester were able to just sneak in behind him. But beyond that, we defended pretty well. Don't get me wrong. There was a chance soon after the red card. Again, Fevrier driving down the right, putting in a cross, which deflected off Tom O'Connor, bobbled around till it came for Chilvers. And from the edge of the D, he drove a powerful shot just wide of the left post. But apart from that, they didn't threaten, but they did keep us penned in, and we just weren't able to play our way out of trouble. That passage of play was perhaps summed up by Andy Cannon at one point, getting the ball 30 yards out from his own goal, seeing there was nobody ahead of him, and just kicking the ball off the pitch and complaining to his teammates that we needed to get more forward motion going to hold Colchester off. That clearly was the message from Phil Parkinson at half-time. He brought Sam Dalby off and brought on James Jones, a tactical substitution, no criticism of Dalby, as we'll get to later on. And we immediately were on the front foot. Parkinson had made it clear we can't just pack the box and hope to survive. As he says in his post-match interview, we're better than that. We're able to go forwards with 10 men and still cause problems, and we've shown that plenty of times over the course of the last couple of seasons. And so we started on the front foot. In fact, within the first minute of the second half, Mullin was drawing a good save out of the Colchester keeper. Tozer knocking a great ball. It was a lovely move. Tozer, under a lot of pressure in his own penalty area, very calmly stepped out of trouble, drove a lovely ball down the line. Lee chested it neatly inside, McLean over the top, and Mullin running onto it. It was him against the two centre-backs. Scenario we'd see a few times in the second half, and Mullin was definitely the victor in this situation. He turned away from Kelleher. The ball ricocheted kindly off Mitchell for Mullin, who switched direction and hit a powerful shot across the keeper. Goalkeeper did well to stand up. Mullin didn't quite find the corners, and it was repelled. And so Wrexham continued in that vein, pushing forwards, creating chances. The crowd were really enjoying it and getting involved. Colchester were having spells of possession, but they weren't really threatening us. And when the second goal came in the 70th minute, well, it just felt like, yeah, we've got the job done. We weren't feeling threatened, and now we had the 2-goal lead. This one was a strange one. It was a corner for Colchester. Terrific full stretch tackle by Cannon in the 6-yard box. He just poked the ball clear as it sat loose. He just beat a Colchester player to it, and then Mullin was away. Now, this was great stuff. I mean, brilliant play by Mullin. No support whatsoever. He didn't care. He just drove right at the heart of the Colchester defence. The two fullbacks who had stayed back from the corner were backpedaling as this terrifying creature came at them. And Mullin did that beautifully. And then once support arrived, switched nicely to the right. Mendy picking her up, cut inside, helped her on into the left channels. Lee, he helped her on to McLean. And McLean ripped in an early cross, a lot of good shape in it. He did do that earlier, about 10 minutes earlier, and there's nobody in there. He's basically done the same thing, but Mitchell, 6 yards out, panicking, with no one behind him and no shout from the keeper, just lunges at it and deflects it into the bottom right corner. Horrible, horrible own goal. I mean, I'm not pointing the finger at Mitchell necessarily, because he probably needed to have a shout. But yeah, it was a cross, there was nobody in there, and Colchester managed to manufacture a goal out of that, which was great for Wrexham. And it looked like game over because Colchester just stopped creating chances. Wrexham had been on top in the second half, despite being down to 10 men, and happy, like in the first half, just to sit off if Colchester actually were going to have a long spell of play. They're just moving it around sideways in front of us. Our defence looked solid. But they did have a couple of moments after that goal from set pieces. Corner swept in. Howard, with Colchester man Taylor and Mendy right underneath him, could only stretch and punch it downwards. It ricocheted in the goalmouth, could have gone anywhere, and Howard did really well to drop on it and smother it. Wrexham then, well, I mean, we had a case for a red card. McGeehan then just diving in on Cannon. It's not a pretty challenge. The thing that Wrexham were furious about was that not even a foul was given. The referee was right on top, like 2 yards away, literally. Colchester carried on attacking Wrexham down to 9 men then, of course, and Chilvers got another shot off in the edge of the area, which was never going anywhere near the goal, but Wrexham were livid, and certainly looking at it, I mean, Cannon seems to get there first, and the Colchester player, while maybe not going through with his studs, certainly goes over the ball and makes contact halfway up Cannon's shin. It's a poor challenge for me, and the fact no foul was given certainly concerned Wrexham. 10 minutes left, O'Connell came off. He was cramping up a bit in his first game for a while, and Boyle came in. Will Boyle would make a few good diving interceptions in the penalty area. With 4 minutes left, it looked like the big chance for Colchester had come and gone. Fevrier whipping across into the far post. Yandolo on as a left-back slashed the ball across the goal. Howard was out of his goal mouth because he'd come on and pushed a corner on to Yandolo, but with an open goal there, Yandolo's shot was off target, and as it flashed across goal, there was nobody there to make contact, or indeed, no Wrexham defender made an inadvertent contact to deflect it into the net. 3 minutes left, and Wrexham made a couple of changes. Mullin and Lee brought off after excellent shifts. Palmer and Davis coming on. Both of them immediately were lively and involved and scrapping away, but 2 minutes later, it was game back on, surprisingly. Yandolo on the left-hand side, standing up across. Begeekin got in between the centre-backs, 6 yards out. Powerful downwards header. Looked like he'd scored. Brilliant save by Howard low down to his left to claw it away, but it fell for Fevrier 10 yards out, and he smashed it into the net. And Wrexham, well, we had a game in our hands, but we rode it out comfortably. 7 added minutes. There was no real threat on Wrexham. And indeed, Wrexham had some good attacking moments too. Not least a minute after the goal when Cannon made an excellent tackle on the edge of the Colchester area to find James Jones. And Jones did ever so well. He drove left to right into the box and then pivoted back and drove a shot back across himself, looking for the bottom left corner. And luckily for him, Mitchell was able to make a really good block because the keeper was completely wrong-footed. That would have been a goal if the defender hadn't got there. So the final whistle went, and Wrexham had won 2-1. Proper battling performance down to 10 men for so long, and a very, very pleasing one from Wrexham's point of view as well. Just frustrating that we let that goal in, the A made it a bit more of a game than it should have been, and B lost Howard a clean sheet that he deserved. Anyway, let's go through the performances. Howard was very good. Howard played really well and made a couple of sharp saves. Wrexham restricted Colchester to shots from around the edge of the area mostly, but Howard was very, very good at dealing with that. And also came out and dealt with a couple of high balls as well. Across the back, I thought Toes was absolutely outstanding, really held the back three together, imposing in the air, strong on the ground, really comfortable with his feet. It was a close call. Didn't quite give him man of the match, but he was very, very impressive. Either side of him, Tom O'Connor again. I had a couple of tricky moments early on with Fevrier running at him, but McLean starting to double up more. And yeah, he had another good, solid game and was using the ball well coming forwards. On the other side of the pitch, O'Connell, back from injury, brilliant, excellent. So he's a quality centre-back and he showed it really solid defensively, did everything right. So calm on the ball as well. There were a couple of moments when Colchester tried to put pressure on him and he walked away from their players comfortably. The wing-backs on the right, again, well done Mendy. I mean, he had a very, very impressive game defensively and driving forward, especially in the second half when he was given that permission to do so after the red. And yeah, I was impressed with Mendy. He was good at taking the game to Colchester and relieving defence by driving forwards. McLean had a weird game on the left-hand side, a really weird game. I mean, he deserves a lot of praise. He put in a lot of work, really. I mean, at the end of the game, there was a crazy, like, sort of 70-yard recovery sprint that he made. And you're sitting there thinking, how is he doing this now? He's in his mid-30s. He's charging up the pitch. He looks so much fresher than anybody else. It was wonderful to see. His use of the ball wasn't always great, and ironically, his cross for the goal was to nobody. So there were good and bad parts. He could easily have got himself into serious trouble straight after the red as well, clashing into a Colchester player. Didn't get a card for that, a little lucky, and then immediately just did it again and got a card. But yeah, so it was a strange up and down performance, but his work rate was excellent. He was involved in everything. Like Mendy, he took the ball forwards well too. Yeah, so he was sort of a little off his game, and yet also decisive. Ask me to explain that, and I'll fail to. In the centre of midfield, well, George Evans was comfortable enough, but it was a silly red card that left his team in trouble. Either side of him, Elliot Lee got the goal, then went into hard work mode. I said in the commentary, I'd love to see his heat map, because I bet it's the deepest heat map in his career. He was living on the edge of our box quite often, just patiently defending and keeping his shape, so that Colchester were just passing the ball around in front of us. On the other side, on the right-hand side of midfield, Cannon was excellent, and I made him our man of the match. He controlled play well. He, again, was a good release. His use of the ball was generally very, very good. Had a shot on goal as well, but he was unlucky to get blocked. I just thought it was excellent. And he also, like McLean, kept going to the Lars, charging forwards deep into added time to relieve that pressure, and indeed made the tackle that allowed us to tee up the second goal. So very impressive from Cannon. Beg pardon. And then up front, Paul Dalby. I said I'd get back to him. Did really well and gets subbed at half time, and I'm glad Parkinson went out of his way to mention that, this was not a comment on him. We had to make a change. We needed another midfielder on the pitch to get Mullin higher at the pitch and not ask him to be doing that defensive job, which is not natural to him. Yeah, Dalby held the ball up really well, fought well with the centre-backs, and deserves a big pat on the back. Pay anybody who starts the next match as a reward for this. But yeah, he was spirited and strong. Lacked support after the red card, but he put everything into it. And then Mullin was brilliant. Mullin was absolutely superb, and especially second half. The only sad thing for Mullin is I bet when it was 1-0, he's thinking, I'm going to fill my boots in the second half, like against Morecambe. And it didn't come that way, but my word. His work rate up front, such a handful. The two centre-backs having nightmares, having to try and deal with him. Tremendous. Coming off the bench, James Jones with an excellent second half performance, did exactly what we wanted. Just watching him off the ball, he was so tight tactically, tying himself close to the other players in the Wrexham defensive unit and just watching all the time, looking over his shoulder, spotting runs, and he just really tightened things up for us in that middle of the pitch. It was so good, while obviously also driving forwards, and was unlucky not to get that injury time goal with a shot which was blocked. Davis and Palmer, like I said, also really battled well. Boyle made 2 or 3 good interceptions in the later stages in the penalty area. A couple where you thought, has he got himself out of position? So he's had to dive around someone to get there. But nonetheless, he made it, and that was important. And he did have John Akinde on by now, who was a serious unit, and dealt with him well. So, yeah, brilliant win. Not the spectacular show I think it might well have been if the red card hadn't happened. But you have to find all the different ways to win the league, don't you? And we found a different one today. It's a side that will fight hard and dig in for results like this, or can just open up the throttle and go at teams. So fantastic stuff. Another pleasing performance, another 3 points, and Wrexham continue to be right up where we want to be. With a final score of Wrexham 2, Colchester United 1, I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.